A hybrid weapon who can line up anywhere, run the ball, and be the safety valve a young quarterback needs is still sitting in free agency, and the Raiders are being named as one of the best fits in the entire league. Stefon Diggs is another veteran name being pushed as the move that accelerates this rebuild. Clint Kubiak just compared Ashton Jeanty to Christian McCaffrey and said he does not want him coming off the field. And the Max Crosby trade conversation appears to finally be over, and the whole league seems to agree. Raider Nation, if you bleed silver and black, stay right here. The receiver room still has a hole, and the veteran name that keeps coming back is Stefon Diggs. And the case for bringing him to Las Vegas is more layered than just filling a roster spot. The Raiders selected Fernando Mendoza with the #1 overall pick and made him the centerpiece of this rebuild. The next step is giving him enough around him to succeed from day one. The receiver room has youth and speed. Trey Tucker, Jalen Naylor, Jack Beck, and Dante Thornton Jr. are all pieces with real upside. But none of them is a proven #1 option who has consistently been one of the best route runners in this league at the highest level of pressure. That is the gap, and that is exactly where Diggs fits. He has recorded 1,000-yard seasons with multiple different teams throughout his career. He is one of the most technically precise route runners in the NFL, a player who creates separation through footwork and timing rather than pure athleticism, which matters enormously for a rookie quarterback who needs to understand where the ball is going before the play even develops. Bringing in Diggs would reduce the pressure on every young receiver in that room. Instead of Beck or Thornton being asked to carry moments they are not ready for yet, those players get to develop in a lower-stakes environment, while Diggs handles the critical situations. And for Mendoza specifically, a quarterback who has already shown he wants to know the why behind everything and who processes the game at an elite level, having a veteran receiver who understands coverages and can be a true safety valve on third downs and in the red zone changes what this offense can do from week one. The argument against Diggs is also real. His age and recent health issues are legitimate concerns that cannot be dismissed. This is not the Diggs of 3 or 4 years ago, but the Raiders are not asking him to be that player. They are asking him to be a reliable veteran presence who makes a young quarterback's job easier and helps develop the younger receivers around him just by being in the building every day. In a division as brutal as the AFC West, that kind of experience is not optional. It is the price of giving Mendoza a real shot at success in year one. Clint Kubiak dropped a name this week that tells you exactly how he sees Ashton Jeanty, Christian McCaffrey. He said the great backs do not want to come off the field. He said their play snap percentage is high, and he made clear that Jeanty is going to be put under a lot of pressure in 2026, not because the coaching staff doubts him, but because they believe in him enough to build everything around him. That is not a coach managing expectations. That is a coach telling the entire league that his running back is going to be on the field as much as possible and that he expects production every single time he is out there. Now let that sink in for a second. McCaffrey is the standard Kubiak is pointing to. The most complete running back in the NFL. A player who does everything in the passing game, the run game, and on third downs. That is the vision Kubiak has for what Jeanty can become in this system. And the pieces around him in 2026 are finally good enough to let that vision become real. Last season was a disaster that was not Jeanty's fault. He carried the ball 266 times for 975 yards and 5 touchdowns behind one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL with no functional quarterback play and still came within 25 yards of a 1,000-yard season as a rookie. That is not a player who struggled. That is a player who was put in an impossible situation and still found ways to produce. Now the offensive line has Tyler Linderbaum at center. Colton Miller is back healthy at left tackle. The scheme has Kubiak calling plays built specifically around running backs who can stay on the field for all 3 downs. And Jeanty himself said it directly. He knows he needs to be better. He wants to push himself and his teammates more, and he does not want to come off the field in important moments. A player who is hungry after a frustrating rookie year, running behind a rebuilt offensive line in a system built for his skill set, with a head coach comparing him to the best back in football. The AFC West better be paying attention because Jeanty is about to have a very different kind of season. The hybrid weapon this offense has been missing is still available, and his name is Deebo Samuel, a 30-year-old receiver who just got named as one of the best fits in the entire league for the Las Vegas Raiders. And when you actually break down why, the case is hard to argue with. Samuel is not a traditional wide receiver. He is a weapon. He lines up everywhere, outside, in the slot, in the backfield, and he contributes in ways that force defensive coordinators to account for him on every single snap, regardless of where he lines up. Across his 7-year career, he has 219 rushing carries for 1,218 yards and 21 touchdowns on the ground alone. That is on top of his receiving production. He had 72 catches for 727 yards and 5 touchdowns last season in Washington. Solid production that came despite his quarterback only starting 7 games due to injury. His thicker, more physical frame makes him the perfect complement to the smaller and speedier Trey Tucker and Jalen Nailor already in this receiver room. And for Fernando Mendoza, a rookie quarterback who is going to face moments in this offense where he needs a reliable option who can take pressure off the play and make something happen after the catch, Samuel is exactly the profile that fits. He is a safety valve who is also a playmaker. That combination is rare, and it is exactly what this offense is missing right now. The fit with Klint Kubiak's system is also real in a way that goes beyond just the stats. Kubiak is a creative play caller who loves to create mismatches and use his weapons in multiple ways across multiple formations. Samuel's versatility gives Kubiak more tools to work with than any traditional receiver on this roster currently provides. He can be a running back on one play, a slot receiver on the next, and a boundary target on the one after that. Defenses cannot pattern match against that kind of deployment. And in a division where you face Patrick Mahomes and elite defensive coordinators multiple times every season, having a player who creates structural problems for opposing defenses just by being on the field is not a luxury. It is exactly the kind of chess piece a smart offensive mind like Kubiak would love to have. Samuel is 30 years old and his best years are behind him. Nobody is pretending otherwise. But this offense does not need the 2021 All-Pro version of Deebo Samuel. It needs a veteran hybrid weapon who makes Mendoza's first season more manageable and makes this offense genuinely harder to defend. Samuel does both. The trade rumor that kept Raider Nation up at night for months appears to be over. Max Crosby is staying in Las Vegas, and an anonymous NFL general manager just told Sports Boom's J.L. Canfora exactly what the league thinks about this situation right now. The quote was direct: Crosby is going to start the season with the Raiders, he is going to play his heart out, and while the team may receive calls before the trade deadline, that ship has largely sailed. That is not a leak designed to create leverage. That is a league executive telling you what the consensus inside NFL buildings actually is right now. And for Raider Nation, that news should land like a weight being lifted. Think about what this franchise went through with this situation over the past several months. Crosby requested a trade after the Raiders sidelined him late last season during their push for the #1 overall pick. He stormed out of the facility. He posted videos of himself playing with his kids as a not-so-subtle message to the league. A deal with the Baltimore Ravens got all the way to Crosby being at their facility before it fell apart at the finish line over a failed physical on an injury everyone already knew about. And through all of it, the drama, the frustration, the uncertainty, Crosby recommitted to the organization he has spent his entire career with. The team literally tattooed on his body. Now he is recovering from his off-season surgery, making strides physically, and by all accounts, fired up to have a big year in 2026. His numbers last season tell you everything about what this defense loses if he walks out that door. 73 tackles, 28 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 1 interception, 6 pass defenses, and 2 forced fumbles in 15 games. That is not a player in decline. That is one of the most disruptive defensive players in this league, performing at an elite level despite everything going on around him. Keeping Crosby may end up being the most important decision of this entire rebuild, not because of what it cost, but because of what it would have cost to lose him. Here is where this franchise actually stands heading into the final stretch of this offseason. The foundation is real. Max Crosby is staying, and that alone changes the entire calculus of what this defense can become in 2026. JT is being compared to Christian McCaffrey by his own head coach and is walking into a system finally built to unleash everything he has. The receiver room is still the last open question, and Diggs and Samuel are both still out there waiting for a phone call that this front office has not made yet. That call needs to happen, not because the young receivers cannot develop. They can. But Mendoza deserves every possible advantage in year one, and a veteran presence who has been through the fire of this league changes what he is able to do from the very first drive of the very first game. The AFC West is not going to wait for Las Vegas to be ready. Kansas City is already built. The division is already dangerous, and this offseason has given Raider Nation more real reasons for genuine belief than this fan base has had in years. The pieces are coming together. The coaching staff trusts each other. The quarterback is hungry. The best defensive player in franchise history is staying home. Now go make the receiver room move and let this thing loose. Training camp is weeks away, and the clock is running. Drop your take in the comments. This space belongs to everyone who lives by just win, baby, and never walked away from the silver and black.